Namaste students. In the previous class you have learned about different types of the blood vessels, that is artery, vein and capillaries. And in today's class we are going to study a little bit more, that is a double circulation and portal system, tissue fluid, lymph organs. About that we are going to study in today's class. Double circulation. Double circulation nothing but blood flows twice in the heart before it completes one full round. Means blood flows twice in the heart to complete one heartbeat. So that is called as a double circulation. Here the two types we can see. First one is pulmonary circulation. Second one is systemic circulation. One complete heartbeat, it includes pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation. Here blood flows twice in the heart. First, pulmonary circulation. Here circulation of blood takes place between lungs and heart. Pulmonary circulation, the circulation of blood takes place between lungs and heart. Here deoxygenated blood from right ventricles through pulmonary artery, it goes to the lungs. In the lungs, deoxygenated blood is converted into oxygenated blood, and through pulmonary veins it comes to the left auricle. Here deoxygenated blood from right ventricle through pulmonary artery, it goes to the lungs. In the lungs, purification of blood takes place. So deoxygenated blood convert into oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood from the lungs, it enters inside the left auricle through pulmonary vein. So this is called as a pulmonary circulation. It takes place between lungs and heart region. This is the short circulation because it takes place only lungs and heart. Next, systemic circulation. Systemic circulation takes place between heart and body parts. Here, oxygenated blood from left ventricle through aorta pumps into the different parts of the body. At the same time, deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body through superior and inferior vena cava, it enters inside the right auricle. Here, systemic circulation takes place between the heart and body parts. Oxygenated blood from left ventricle through aorta, it reaches to the different parts of the body. At the same time, deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body through superior and inferior vena cava, it enters inside the right auricle. So this is the circulation of blood takes place between the heart and body parts. So it is the systemic circulation. So it is called a general body circulation also. It takes place a little bit more time.
Circulation in man. Human heart has double circulation, which means that blood passes through the heart 2 times to supply once to the whole body. It involves 2 circulations. They are systemic circulation, pulmonary circulation. Systemic circulation. It is the major circulation in the body. The aorta divides into arteries, arterioles, and finally to capillaries, and therefore supplies oxygenated blood to various body parts. From there, deoxygenated blood is collected by venules which join to form veins, and finally vena cava, and pour blood back into the heart. Pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary circulation is related with lungs. It starts from the entry of blood into the pulmonary artery from the right ventricle. It later divides into two and enters respective lungs. In the lungs, blood is oxygenated and brought back to the heart through pulmonary veins.
Next, hepatic portal system. The veins starting from the stomach and intestine do not directly convey the blood to the posterior vena cava. Instead, they first enter the liver as a combined hepatic portal vein. There it breaks up into capillaries in contrast to the general characteristics of a vein, and a new vein called hepatic vein is formed by their reunion, which joins the posterior vena cava. Here, whatever the deoxygenated blood is there from the stomach and intestine, it not directly pour into the posterior vena cava. So, this blood enters inside the liver. So, and in the liver, this again breaks down, it forms capillaries. These capillaries again rejoin in the liver region. Then this deoxygenated blood through the hepatic vein, it goes to the posterior vena cava. Now, what is this portal vein? Portal vein is the one which starts with the capillaries and also ends in capillaries. Portal vein means that it is the vein, it starts from capillaries and ends in capillaries. So, that is called as a portal vein. So, this portal vein we can see between the liver as well as the stomach and small intestine. In the diagram, you can observe it clearly. You will come to know. A portal vein is a vein which starts with the capillaries and ends also in capillaries. So, this is called as a hepatic portal system. Here, the blood absorbed by the stomach and intestine is first brought to the liver, which act like a store to regulate the quantity of nutrients flowing into the general blood circulation. For example, excess sugar is stored as glycogen, and also certain poisons, if absorbed through food, are detoxified in the liver region. Here, whatever we are consuming the food, it goes to the stomach and intestine. Later, it goes to the liver. Because if there is excess amount of glucose is there, it goes to the liver. In the liver, excess amount of glucose is converted into glycogen form and it is stored. And amino acid also, if excess amino acid is there, if it enters inside the liver, deamination process takes place, means breakdown of the amino acid takes place. So that's why after a meal, so this glucose and amino acid content through the stomach and intestine, it goes to the liver region. So it not directly pour into the posterior vena cava, it goes to the liver region. Next, we can study the blood vessels which are entering and leaving from the liver region. First one, blood vessels entering the liver. Hepatic artery. It carries the oxygenated blood from aorta to liver region. Relate to the liver, we are using the word hepatic. So, hepatic portal vein, it carries the deoxygenated blood from stomach and intestine into liver. Hepatic portal vein, it carries the deoxygenated blood from stomach and intestine into the liver region. Next, blood vessel leaving the liver. Hepatic vein, it carries the deoxygenated blood from liver to posterior vena cava. Hepatic vein, it carries the deoxygenated blood from liver to posterior vena cava. So these blood vessels are very important. Now we can see in the kidney, blood vessel entering the kidney, renal artery. It carries oxygenated blood from aorta to kidney. Relate to the kidney, we are using the word renal. Renal artery, it carries the oxygenated blood from aorta to kidney. And blood vessel leaving the kidney, renal vein, it carries the deoxygenated blood from kidney to posterior vena cava. Renal vein, it carries the deoxygenated blood from kidney to posterior vena cava. Now you can see in the diagram. So in the examination, this type of diagrams they will give, and arrow mark, you have to observe the arrow mark carefully, and you have to fill the numbers. For example, I have solved this diagram. Here, first you identify the heart. Here number 3 is the heart and number 2 is the lungs. Now number 1 is the pulmonary artery. The arrow mark is from heart to it goes to the lungs, that is pulmonary artery. And number 4 arrow mark, you observe the arrow mark, it coming from number 2 to number 3, so that is a pulmonary vein. So number 1 is a pulmonary artery, number 2 is the lungs, number 3 is the heart, and number 4 is a pulmonary vein. And number 5, it is the aorta, because it is leaving from the heart, that is aorta. And number 6, that blood vessel is entering inside the liver, that is hepatic artery, because it divides from the number 5. Number 5 is the aorta. So from aorta, when it enters inside the liver, it divides to form hepatic artery. So next, number 7, it is a hepatic portal vein, because here intestine, it is connected to the liver, that is a hepatic portal vein. Hepatic portal vein carries the deoxygenated blood from stomach and intestine to the liver. So number 7 is the hepatic portal vein. And number 8, it is leaving from the kidney region, so it is a renal vein. And number 9, it is coming from head to heart region, that is a superior vena cava. And number 10, it is the stomach. So you have to observe the arrow mark carefully. Next, pulse. Pulse is the alternate expansion and elastic recoil of the wall of the artery during ventricular systole. Here, when the ventricle undergo the contraction, especially here you can see the left ventricle, when it undergo the contraction, it pumps the oxygenated blood to the aorta, and from the aorta it goes to the artery. Here, in the artery, the walls undergo the contraction and relaxation, because it has an elastic muscular wall, and in the artery, blood flows under high pressure. That's why these elastic muscular walls undergo the contraction and relaxation. So that we call as a pulse. It is the alternate expansion and elastic recoil of the wall of the artery during ventricular systole. You can feel the pulse by pressing your finger gently over an artery that has come up superficially, such as the radial artery of the wrist on the side of the thumb. In the thumb side, there is one artery is there, radial artery. You can keep your 2 fingers in that wrist region, so you can feel coming up and going down. Okay, you can feel that one. So that is called as a pulse. The counting of pulse is indirectly the counting of the heartbeat. The counting of pulse is indirectly the counting of the heartbeat. And the pulse rate increases due to physical exercises or even under certain emotions. Under certain emotions as well as during the physical exercises, the pulse rate increases. Next, blood pressure. Blood pressure is the pressure which the blood flowing through the arteries exerts on their walls is called blood pressure. The blood pressure nothing but is the force of blood against the wall of the blood vessels is known as blood pressure. Here, when the blood flows under high pressure in the artery, that blood exerts a pressure on the wall of the artery. That is called as blood pressure. So, when the blood flows under high pressure, at that time, the blood creates a pressure on the wall of the artery. That pressure is called blood pressure. There are two limits are there in the blood pressure. First one is systolic pressure. It is called as upper limit. Here, which is at the time when fresh blood is pushing through the artery as a result of the ventricular contraction of the heart. Here, the pressure of the blood when the heart contracts. So, when the heart contracts, it creates a pressure that is called systolic pressure. So, one more, diastolic pressure. The diastolic pressure when the wave has passed over, or the pressure of the blood when the heart is relaxed. When the heart is relaxed, at that time, when the pressure is there, that pressure is called diastolic pressure. This is the lower limit. So, we can see the systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. Systolic pressure when the heart undergo the contraction, diastolic pressure when the heart undergo the relaxation. In both the condition, they will create a pressure. That pressure is the systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. So, in the normal blood pressure for adult is 100 to 140 mm. That is a systolic blood pressure, and 60 to 80 diastolic blood pressure. Here in the normal condition in an adult, 100 to 140 mm is the systolic pressure, and 60 to 80 mm it is a diastolic pressure. Sometimes there is a rise in blood pressure above 140/90. Above 140/90 is called as a hypertension. It is called as a high blood pressure. This high blood pressure is caused because of some of the tension. In some time, because of doing the more physical exercises, or because of this tension, the blood pressure also increases. That is called as a hypertension. And we can measure this blood pressure by using an instrument that is called as sphygmomanometer. Through the sphygmomanometer, we can come to know the blood pressure. Next, tissue fluid. As the blood flows in the capillaries of the tissues, the plasma and the leukocytes leak out through their walls. This fluid bathes the cells and is called tissue fluid. Here, when the blood flows in the capillaries, the some amount of plasma and WBCs, they will come out from the capillaries, that is through the diapedesis movement, and when they come out, they will fill the gap between the cells. This fluid, the plasma and WBC, they will fill which are the gaps are there between the cells. So now that fluid is called tissue fluid. It is called as intercellular or extracellular fluid. What is the main function of this fluid? So this fluid helps the cells absorb oxygen and other required substances. It supplies the oxygen and other substances to the cells, and at the same time they will take the carbon dioxide and other waste products from the cell. This tissue fluid, they receive the carbon dioxide and other waste product. Next, lymph. Some of the tissue fluid may be reabsorbed into the blood vessels, but most of it enters another set of minute channels named lymph vessels, where it is called lymph. So whatever this tissue fluid is there, sometimes this tissue fluid enters inside another type of the vessels, that is called as a lymph vessels. Then it is called as a lymph. The lymph vessels on the way drain lymph into lymph nodes, from where fresh lymph channels arise and ultimately pour the lymph into the major anterior veins close to their entry into the right auricle and is again in circulation. So later whatever they collect the carbon dioxide content, they will pour into the veins, then it is carried by the vena cava, then it goes to the right auricle, again it undergo the circulation process. Next, composition of lymph. Lymph has two parts, one is the cellular part and is the non-cellular part. In the cellular part, we can see the leukocytes, especially lymphocytes we can see, but there is no platelets. In non-cellular part, it has water, 94% of water is there, and some of the solid content, that is nearly 60%. It may be the proteins, fats, carbohydrate, enzymes as well as antibodies we can see. Next, functions of lymph. First one, nutritive. It supplies nutrition and oxygen to those parts where blood cannot reach. In which part the blood cannot reach? For that part, nutrition and oxygen is supplied by this lymph. Second, drainage. It drains away excess tissue fluid and metabolites and returns proteins to the blood from tissue spaces. So, whatever the excess tissue fluid is there, or metabolic waste materials are there, or some of the proteins are there, it again returns into the blood from these tissue spaces. Next, absorption. Fat from the intestine are absorbed through the lymphatics. So, whatever the fat content is there in the intestine, it is absorbed by this lymph. There is a special type of lymph is there, that is lacteals. The lacteals, it is present in the intestinal villi, so it absorbs the fat content. Next, defense. Lymphocytes and monocytes of the lymph function to defend the body. Yeah, lymphocytes and monocytes, they will give the defense mechanism to our body.
Did you know your body has its own version of a sewer system for removing unwanted toxins, waste and excess water from the body? This is called our lymphatic system. Like our blood circulation, the lymphatic system is made up of millions of little vessels that branch all around our body. But whereas arteries and veins carry blood, the lymphatic vessels are much, much finer and carry a colourless fluid called lymph. Our lymphatic system has three main duties. 1. It contains white blood cells called lymphocytes, which are used to fight infection. 2. It acts as a one-way drainage system, transporting fluid from body tissues into the blood circulation. 3. It gets rid of waste products produced by cells. As blood circulates the body, plasma leaves the blood vessels and travels into the body tissues, delivering food, oxygen, and hormones to the cells. This plasma becomes tissue fluid and surrounds all our body's tissues. It then collects waste products, excess water, and toxins from the cells. 90% of this fluid passes back into the blood circulation. However, 10% of the fluid is left behind and is known as lymph. We therefore need a system to drain this lymph fluid, so that we don't end up as a swollen fluid-filled balloon, hence the lymphatic system. The lymph fluid drains into lymph vessels, where it then travels to lymph nodes, which are found all around your body. To stop backflow, the lymph vessels have one-way valves and muscular walls that contract to force the lymph forward. This is happening in millions of little lymphatic vessels in your body every minute of every day. The lymph nodes filter the lymph, destroying or trapping anything harmful. The lymph nodes contain white blood cells called lymphocytes, which attack and break down bacteria, viruses, damaged cells, or cancer cells. This filtering and destroying is an important part of our immune system and stops nasty substances being fed back into our bloodstream, which would make us sick. The waste products and destroyed bacteria are then carried in the lymph fluid through larger lymph vessels up to your neck, where the thoracic duct empties the lymph back into the blood circulation. The bloodstream then removes the waste products from the body as it does with other waste. As well as the lymph fluid, our lymphatic system also includes a few organs: the spleen, thymus, tonsils, and adenoids. They all have roles in helping our body fight off infections. Unfortunately, like any sewer system, things can go horribly wrong. Sometimes we get infections that cause the pumping to break down. This can cause your arms or legs to swell to huge proportions. Sometimes the debris or other bad substances can make it past lymph nodes. Sometimes cancer cells do this and spread the cancer to other parts of the body, which obviously isn't good. For now, we wish you all the best for your lymphatic health, which you can help maintain by drinking lots of water and exercising. Keep on pumping.
Next, spleen. The spleen is a large lymphatic organ about the size of clenched fist, reddish brown in color, and situated in the abdomen behind the stomach and above the left kidney. So spleen is one of the lymphatic organ. It is reddish brown in color and is situated in the abdomen behind the stomach and above the left kidney. And what are the functions of this spleen? It acts like a blood reservoir. Yes, in emergency condition like that hemorrhage or physical or emotional stress, this in the carbon monoxide poisoning, the spleen releases the stored blood in the bloodstream. When there is a scarcity of blood takes place, at that time the spleen releases the blood. Second, it produces lymphocytes. Yes, it produces the lymphocytes in the embryo stage. Next, it destroys worn out red blood cells. Here in the embryo stage also it produces the red blood cells, white blood cells, as well as it also destroys the worn out or damaged red blood cells, even white blood cells also. And in an embryo, spleen produces the RBCs. So these are the main functions of spleen.
Blood pressure. Water flows with a higher pressure when you connect a tube to a pump set operating in your field or house. Also, the tubes burst open if the pressure is very high. Similarly, when the heart pumps blood into systemic aorta or into the pulmonary trunk, the blood flows with pressure in the blood vessels. The pressure with which the blood flows in the blood vessels is called the blood pressure, usually called BP. Arteries receive blood from the heart, so blood pressure is higher in the arteries. The blood pressure gradually decreases as blood flows into capillaries. When this blood is collected into veins, blood pressure is greatly reduced. So, blood pressure is less in the veins when compared to the arteries. Blood pressure is measured by doctors using an instrument called the sphygmomanometer. Blood pressure levels are written in the form of 120 by 80. This is normal blood pressure. The numerator 120 represents systolic pressure and the denominator 80 represents diastolic pressure. During the systolic, when the ventricles contract, the blood is pumped into the arteries. So the blood pressure in the arteries increases immediately after the systolic. This rise in the blood pressure in the arteries is called the systolic pressure. When the diastolic occurs, more blood is pumped by the heart. The blood vessels return to the normal diameter and maintain blood pressure at a lower level. This is diastolic pressure. Hypertension or high blood pressure. In some people, the blood pressure will be very high, more than the usual 120/80. Such a condition is called hypertension, usually called high BP. One of the reasons for this is the blocking of arteries by cholesterol. Constant stress and strain for a long time, improper functioning of kidneys, smoking, and alcohol consumption are also the reasons for hypertension. This condition, if not treated for a long time, may also lead to other health problems, and it may lead to the death of the person. Diet control, moderate exercise, and avoiding stress, smoking, and alcohol consumption, as well as taking appropriate medicines, will help to control this problem.